Hi, this is Sweet Life and I'm Natasha, back at it with a recipe for turkey chili. I'm keeping the series going with hearty stews and soups. Chili certainly belongs in that conversation. I know that in some parts of America, putting beans or any kinds of vegetables is sacrilegious, but I don't care. I like chili with beans, and because I like vegetables with my lunch or dinner, I sometimes add bell peppers or even kale. But I'm going to keep things simple here. Let's get into it.
So here I have a frying pan with some oil that's been heated, and I'm just adding some chopped onions to that. Just going to brown this up, let them get soft, caramelized, slightly browned. Set aside the onions, and in the same pan I add a little bit of oil, heat it, and to this I'm going to brown my turkey. And this is just about 1.25 pounds of ground turkey. I use turkey rather than beef just because I prefer it. I'm not the biggest beef fan, but it's certainly up to you. You can use what kind of ground meat you want. And I'm just going to brown this up, cover it, ensure that it cooks through, gets really good flavor. Ground turkey to me looks like brain matter, which is unappetizing. So I like to add some browning, which is just like caramel color, to give it a more appetizing color because you eat with your eyes. So just drizzle a little bit over. You can find it at the grocery store. And I just add it to ground turkey, stir it up a little bit in the pot, taking the time to coat all of the pieces so that it has like a nice brownish color. And we just go from there. And to this, I'm going to season it with a bit of seasoning salt. Not too much, because I'm also going to add when we get to the actual chili phase. So at this point, it's really just to help develop the layers of flavor. And I'm just going to add a little bit of liquid to deglaze the bottom of the pan, just to loosen some of those bits that have stuck to the bottom of the pan while the meat's been cooking. All right, from there, we just continue giving it a stir, loosening up those bits from the bottom of the pot so we don't have anything burning. Cover it for a bit, let it continue to cook. This is just to reabsorb some of that liquid. And you see it's nice and bubbling away. The meat is nicely browned. We are good to go. Here I have some pinto beans that I've soaked in a pot overnight. You can use kidney beans, whatever kind of beans you want. I use pinto because they were the cheapest. And this is just like a 6 or 8 quart pot. And I've just put a little bit of water past the beans. To this, I'm going to add those onions that we cooked earlier. And to this, I'm now going to start adding in the ground turkey, but just spooning it in so as not to make a mess. And then when I get down to the end of it, I'm just going to, empty out the little scrapings from the pot. In this case, we're just building flavor layer by layer. We've cooked this stuff separately. It's just going to add so much more flavor. Now I'm going to add in 2 cans of tomatoes, and this is the petite diced tomatoes. The reason that I use that is really for the texture. The tomato helps to add flavor, but if you use like puree or crushed, I feel the crushed might not break up enough, and you might end up with 2 big chunks in it. And this is something that I'm not going to cook at a very high heat. It's going to cook at a lower heat, but I want like the texture to be just right. And I feel like the petite diced tomatoes are just perfect. So it's about the same size as like the beans and the onions that we added in, so you don't end up with like these super big chunks. And to this, I'm now going to add a can of rotel, which is a combination of tomatoes and jalapenos. It comes at different heat levels. I like things a little bit more spicy, so I go with the hot. But I believe there's an original, a mild, you go according to your preferred heat level, whether or not you like spice. And then just a little bit of my blended seasoning for just additional flavor. Now we're going to add seasoning. In this case, some more of the seasoning salt, a little bit of black pepper, cumin, and just give the pot a stir from there. As we're going, like I said, just continuing to build flavor, layer by layer by layer. At the end, you're going to end up with a nice complex flavor where all of this stuff just blends together for a really nice chili. And so here are more seasonings. I'm going to add some garlic powder, some onion powder, chili powder, and once again, give it a stir. Okay, so we haven't actually allowed this to cook for a very long time. We've just put all of these flavors together. Give it a taste just to kind of mark where things are now. But don't add any more seasoning right now. Just a little taste to see where you are right now. Let it cook on medium low fire. Simmer, but not boil. We want to give it time for all of the flavors to come together, to sort of start working together. And we don't want it to boil because, not that we really have anything to break up or what have you, but it's more so about giving all of these flavors a chance to come together, right? Letting the beans cook nice and slowly, really helping to develop the flavors. But medium low heat, just let it bubble away for a bit. The beans shouldn't be too hard, but that's where we are right now. And to this, I add just a little bit of chopped dark chocolate. The reason being, we have quite a bit of tomato here, and it can be pretty acidic. The chocolate helps to add a bit of rich flavor, but because it's dark chocolate, it doesn't have a lot of sugar content, so it's not going to make it very sweet. It helps to cut through some of the acid and adds a little bit of richness to it. It's one of those things where if you ever eat something and it's like you can pick out most of the ingredients, but there's like that little taste at the back, just in the background, that you can't quite put your fingers on, this is the chocolate in this case. Like I've seen in a lot of chili recipes where they add it in, and I totally agree that it makes a big difference. From there, I just allow the chili to just bubble away for a bit. Just continue cooking, letting the beans get nice and tender. The meat is already cooked. All of the other vegetables, it's not really anything in there that's going to take a long time to cook. It's really just letting the beans get a chance to absorb all of that flavor. After allowing the chili to cook for a while, go ahead, grab a pot spoon, fish out some of the beans, and just give them a mash with a smaller spoon. You're testing for doneness. You don't want them to be mushy necessarily, but you also don't want them to be hard. Also, give the liquid a taste to get an idea of if you need more seasoning, because we're going to go ahead and adjust at this point. Okay, so having given it a taste, I'm going to add some more seasoning salt, a little bit of black pepper, some garlic powder, once again with the onion powder, and then just a little bit of cumin. And again, each time you add seasonings, you want to make sure you blend it throughout. So back into the chili with a spoon and giving it a really good stir. Because at this point, we're kind of far along in the cooking process. We want to make sure that we evenly distribute the flavors. You don't want to have like some bowls that are very well seasoned, others that are bland, some where it's just the right amount of salt, others where it's like it's over salted. So a part of that is stirring, tasting, making adjustments. And this is the thing about cooking, where you might get a recipe and it tells you put in this amount of spice, that amount of seasoning, blah, 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 blah. Baking is different, but cooking, you sometimes need to make adjustments on your own. So this chili recipe, when it's done, as it's bubbling away here, it's going to be somewhat liquidy, as you can see. The beans are nicely cooked through, but you have quite a bit of liquid. That's not a problem. But what you want to do, or what I would suggest, is to make it actually a day or two ahead. This is just one of those dishes that benefits from having some time to sit. The flavors get a chance to develop more. And not just that, the beans, the liquid that they give off, the liquid that they cook in, when you allow it to cool and to sit overnight in the fridge, it thickens up. So when you give it a stir, like a day or two later, that's when you're going to have that chili consistency that you're used to. At this point, the texture, the consistency is going to be a little bit too liquid. So it's something that I would suggest making a day or two ahead. Let it cool down, put it into the fridge, let it sit overnight.
This chili recipe is really great on its own with some sour cream or plain yogurt and maybe a little bit of cheddar cheese with a salad or some kale on the side and maybe some cornbread. But I also like to keep some of the leftovers to use as a topper, which I'll spoon onto hot dogs, cheese fries, nachos.
Thanks for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and check out my Cooking at Home playlist. Go ahead and click that thumbs up button if you like what you saw, and go ahead and share it on social media.